Would you dare to brush your teeth with water from a tap that is sprouting deformed human teeth? Or live in a place where the ground temperature exceeds 900 degrees F, causing asphalt to melt year-round? Welcome to the dark side of the American dream. 10 forgotten rural towns that feel like real-life nightmares. Look at these telling numbers. 34% of children suffer from permanent brain poisoning. 65 consecutive days without a drop of sunlight drive people into a state of madness, and ghost towns are completely erased from Google Maps by the government through shadow banning. When the money flows away, what remains is not just the skeletal frames of decaying houses, but the horrific resistance of nature and survival bubbles, so suffocating, they break the human spirit. Don't be quick to think that America is only about the boulevards of light and luxury, because right now, I will take you on a surreal travel journey where spiritual debts and ecological disasters will send chills down your spine from the very first seconds. Once the heart of lead and zinc that sustained 2 world wars with tens of billions of dollars in metal ore, picture today is an urban corpse suffocated by hundreds of millions of tons of toxic waste. Here, you will see towering heaps of toxic sand, standing like pyramids of greed, where the wind constantly disperses lead dust into the atmosphere. Every breath of a person here, quite literally, is a slow death sentence. In the 90s, a medical study slapped the authorities in the face. More than 30% of children here had dangerously high levels of lead poisoning in their blood, leaving them with permanent brain damage. The industrial policy system of that time created a brutal legacy. The geology of the hundreds of miles of underground mines was flooded, triggering chemical reactions that produced extremely strong mine acids. This stream of acid silently corrodes the plumbing system, pushing the heavy metal content to unimaginable levels. And this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. When you turn on the faucet in picture, the sudden change in pressure causes calcium, gypsum, and iron oxide to precipitate, densely coating the faucet head. Over the years, the rough, rust-colored, calcified deposits protrude, creating a horrifying image resembling a deformed human jaw growing out of the stainless steel faucet. Toxins seep into the bones of adults, causing necrosis, while the tooth enamel of children permanently retains traces of poisoning for life. A price too high for prosperity in name only. The US Environmental Protection Agency spent millions of dollars to eradicate and buy out the entire town. But the strange thing is, despite the evacuation order, there are still only 6 residents stubbornly clinging to life among the toxic sand dunes. They accept using bottled water for all their needs, turning their existence into a stubborn declaration of war against the system. If it were you, would you accept leaving your ancestral home just because of a government contamination report? Or would you choose to stay and gamble with your life? But if Pitcher's nightmare comes from what people have dug up from the ground, then in the next town, hell is ignited from a central pile of garbage, burning a city from right beneath the feet of its residents. Are you ready to step into that giant oven? Welcome to Centralia, where the ground beneath your feet is always frighteningly warm, even in the midst of a freezing winter. In the 1960s, a garbage fire accidentally ignited an exposed coal seam, allowing the Grim Reaper to burrow deep into the intricate network of underground mines. The management system and all efforts to extinguish the fire with mud, sand, or water pumps for decades afterward completely failed. What was the result? The underground temperature measured at some points exceeds 900 degrees F, turning the foundation of an entire town into a giant oven. Walking on the roads here, you will see the asphalt cracked, continuously releasing columns of grey smoke filled with toxic gases. In winter, snow can never accumulate on the ground because heat from the earth continuously rises. This place is so crazy that in the 80s, a 12-year-old boy was almost swallowed by a 45-meter deep sinkhole filled with toxic gas right in his backyard. When the danger could no longer be hidden, Congress allocated over $40 million to relocate the residents and then officially erased the town's zip code from the map. But here's the interesting part. A group of resilient residents decided to sue the state government to fight for their right to stay in their homes. They did not want their memories to be buried by the system's ineptitude. By 2013, a special legal agreement was signed, allowing the last residents to stay until they passed away, before the land officially belonged to the state. As of recent years, the town has only about 5 residents living on top of a massive underground crematorium. It is estimated that this large coal seam could continue to burn for another 250 years. It's no surprise that this place directly inspired the famous horror movie Silent Hill, with images of ash rain falling from the sky. Do you have enough courage to sleep one night in a house where right beneath the bedroom floor lies a stream of coal lava at 900 degrees Fahrenheit? Is the government's decision to wipe out a town to protect the people, or is it just a way for them to cover up their own helplessness in the face of a mistake created by the system itself? Please leave your thoughts below. Leaving behind the scorching heat of the Pennsylvania oven, let me take you to the frigid North Pole of Alaska, where an entire town decided to escape the cold by huddling inside a solitary building. Is it a survival fortress or a voluntary prison? Originally a secret military base of the US Army during World War II, hidden deep in a remote strait, Whittier today has chosen a way of life unlike anywhere else on Earth. After the war, the entire social structure of the town, with around 200 residents, became self-contained, huddling inside the only 14-story apartment building named Begich Towers. This building is an extremely closed ecosystem. You have a police station on the first floor, a post office, a clinic, a synagogue in the basement, and a small grocery store. In winter, students don't even need to step outside. They go through an underground concrete tunnel that connects directly from the apartment basement to the school. What is the cause of this confinement? It is the brutal snowstorms and gusts of wind outside that can reach 160 miles per hour, ready to blow away anything. The only road connecting this town to the outside world is a one-way tunnel through the mountains, 2.5 miles long. The crazy thing is that this tunnel will be completely locked from 10:30 in the evening until 6 in the morning the next day. If you miss the trip, accept spending the night in a car amidst the frozen cliffs. Moreover, each household here has to face the exorbitant apartment management fees, reaching nearly $700 per month, creating a heavy economic burden. The absolute lack of private space has led to painful consequences. The rate of depression and issues related to social evils have increased right within the concrete walls. The younger generation grows up in extreme boredom, with the only economic activity for children being picking up stones along the roadside and selling them to tourists for $1. Local residents even mock themselves by wearing t-shirts that say, "Prisoners of Whittier." Life here gives a suffocating feeling of a thriller movie, where the line between a close-knit community and collective madness is extremely thin. Can you endure living in the same building, sharing an elevator with your boss, ex-lover, and psychiatrist for 6 months of winter? Please subscribe to the channel if you find this one-building city model reminiscent of a science fiction experiment. If the confinement in Whittier is protected by laws and concrete, then in California, there is a ghost town where even the smallest souvenirs can trap you in an inescapable curse. Let's move on to the next coordinates. Located at an altitude of over 2,500 meters in the Sierra Nevada range, Bodie was once a bustling town with more than 10,000 residents during the peak of the gold rush in 1876. But when the resources were depleted, people hurriedly left, leaving behind a perfectly frozen town in a state of decay. Here, you will see chalk marks on the blackboard from 1,890 that have not yet been erased, and rusted cans of food still lying motionless on the store shelves, as if their owners had just stepped outside for a few minutes. However, what truly makes Bodie a nightmare is the spiritual curse associated with it. It is rumored that anyone who dares to take anything from here, even a rusty nail or a small stone, will suffer terrible misfortunes. The park management office here continuously receives strange parcels sent from all over the world, containing stolen items along with tear-stained apology letters. A letter sent in 1992 wrote, "My life has been on a downhill slope ever since I picked up this nail. Accidents, job loss, and continuous illness." Some even secretly returned an old leather shoe after enduring a decade-long series of misfortunes, or more bizarrely, a French tourist returned an old Pokemon game cartridge because they couldn't withstand the spiritual pressure. What is the truth? The management system of the last century has woven this story. It was the forest rangers themselves who crafted the curse to prevent looting and artifact theft. But that psychological prank has turned into a terrifying cultural reality. Due to strict legal regulations, forest rangers cannot simply take the returned items and throw them back where they were. They are required to document the criminal evidence, seal it in cardboard boxes, and store it in the state's secure warehouses. As a result, there is a massive collection of spiritual debts lying dormant in the dark, preserved by the very taxes of the people. In your opinion, what is more terrifying, a real curse or the psychological power of humans turning themselves into victims of delusion. If you have the chance to visit Bodhi, would you dare to pick up a rusty nail and put it in your pocket? The silence of Bodhi is due to people having left, but in the desolate desert of New Mexico, the silence of nature is crushed by an invisible hum, continuously tormenting the skulls of the sensitive. First appearing in the spring of 1993 in the art town of Taos, this phenomenon quickly became known to the world as the Taos hum. Imagine a sound at an extremely low frequency, deep and continuous, just like the engine of a large diesel truck starting up from a great distance. The frightening thing is that this hum cannot be blocked by any thick walls or even specialized earplugs. It keeps trudging through all obstacles, becoming clearer and more pronounced at night or in absolutely quiet spaces. In the 90s, serious scientific studies were conducted. They brought in the most sensitive seismic and electromagnetic field measuring devices of the time, but the results were around zero. No physical source could be found. The madness didn't stop there. Only about 2 to 4% of the local population can hear this sound, and they are called the hearers. For this unfortunate minority group, the hum is not a myth, but a brutal physical torment. It creates mechanical vibrations directly in their chest and skull. The medical consequences are extremely distressing. Chronic insomnia, dizziness, nosebleeds, panic, and severe clinical depression. Researchers classify it as interaction-forced tinnitus. The frequency and intensity of this sound will suddenly change when the listener moves their head or changes their geographical location. This bizarre interactive characteristic challenges all conventional auditory physics laws and is completely different from medical tinnitus. The impotence of the medical system has pushed these individuals into a state of existential isolation. They are viewed with suspicion by society and seen as schizophrenics. The land here is extremely ancient, making people forced to doubt, is this natural energy released from the earth, or is it actually a secret military low-frequency experiment? No repair services, no cure, the hum still echoes every night like a doomsday countdown clock. Have you ever heard a strange sound in the night that absolutely no one around you could hear? Please share your story below. And in your opinion, are the authorities truly powerless against the source of the rumbling, or is it a top-secret project that must be kept hidden at all costs? Stull is a small, rural community with a population of only about 20 people, but it possesses one of the most terrifying spiritual reputations in the United States. Since the 1970s, powerful urban legends have transformed the local cemetery here into one of the 7 gates of hell on Earth. It is rumored that Satan himself appears here twice a year on Halloween night and the spring equinox just to visit the grave of his witch lover. At the center of all the rumors is the ancient limestone church from the 19th century, where rainwater is said to never be able to fall within the boundaries of its walls. The story is so thrilling that there is even a legend claiming that Pope John Paul II once ordered his pilot to fly around the state of Kansas just to avoid passing over this land. The residents' outrage at the wave of ghost hunters and vandals descending upon Stull turned it into a mini-militarized zone. Then, on Good Friday in 2002, the ancient stone church was suddenly and mysteriously demolished without any explanation from the authorities. The purpose behind this action is very clear: to permanently eliminate the physical anchor of the rumors in the digital space. Nowadays, Stull Cemetery is carefully surrounded by a high barbed wire fence and security cameras operating 24/7. The police force patrols continuously with extremely heavy fines for any unauthorized intrusion. Moreover, the Google Maps system has completely removed the detailed navigation feature leading to the cemetery as a deliberate geographical restriction measure. A town without an economy, without gas stations, without stores, is doing everything it can to erase its name from the flow of public information. Using power to demolish an old church, does it really erase the rumors, or does it inadvertently make it even more sacred and mysterious in the eyes of the public? What do you think about a landmark in the United States being deliberately erased from the map? Stull chose the darkness of information to protect himself. In the northernmost city of the United States, darkness is not a human choice. It is a biological sentence lasting exactly 65 continuous days. Located at 71 degrees north latitude, Utchagvik is the northernmost city in the United States, where it experiences the extreme and maddening phenomenon of polar night. From mid-November to the end of January the following year, the sun completely sets below the horizon and disappears for 65 consecutive days. The complete absence of natural light creates a brutal biological shock, breaking and disrupting the entire inherent circadian rhythm of humans. From a biochemical perspective, the lack of light stimulates the pineal gland to produce excessive melatonin, a hormone that causes a continuous state of drowsiness. On the contrary, the concentration of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that regulates mood, severely decreases due to the body's deficiency of vitamin D. This chemical imbalance drives residents straight into extreme seasonal affective disorder. You will fall into a state of complete disorientation. Noon at 12 o'clock appears as dark as 3 o'clock in the morning, easily triggering terrifying auditory and visual hallucinations. Sociological data here have recorded a painful reality. The rate of dangerous crime, addiction, or self-harming behavior has surged during the dark winter months. To survive in this faulty biological system, residents are required to install high-powered sunlight-simulating light devices and continuously take high doses of vitamin D. Living here also means facing record-high costs. The prices of goods are twice the national average, so much so that buying a carton of milk or a frozen pizza requires a family budget meeting. Basic rent prices range from $1,500 to $2,000 per month in this icy refuge. And as soon as you step outside in the temperature of minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind howling, it will be a near-death experience as your eyelashes freeze instantly. Boston Village, a peaceful rural town established in 1,866 inches, the Cuyahoga Valley. The turning point occurred in 1974, when President Gerald Ford signed an order allowing the National Park Service to forcibly acquire all the land here. Hundreds of families were immediately expelled from the land their ancestors had built. On the wall of an abandoned house, disgruntled residents left a bitter message. Now we understand how the Native Americans felt. Due to a lack of funding, the government did not demolish the houses immediately, but left them abandoned for decades, inadvertently creating a haunting urban corpse. Here, you will encounter rows of empty houses boarded up with rotting wood, a rusting school bus sitting abandoned by the roadside, and numerous no trespassing signs from the federal government posted every place. By 1985, a horrifying truth was revealed. The government discovered that the Krejci dump landfill site in the area was a hotspot for extremely toxic industrial chemical pollution being illegally dumped. Many forest rangers suffered severe skin burns and heavy poisoning as soon as they approached this area. It was the deadlock and information concealment by the authorities that sparked early internet conspiracy theories, turning this place into a legendary helltown. They spun tales about a chemical leak that mutated into a bizarre creature called the Peninsula Python. The local Presbyterian church, with its symmetrical decorative details, was inadvertently labeled as a satanic temple with an inverted cross symbol. Netizens even mockingly said that the mutated monster here looks so bizarre, as if it just stepped out of an eccentric fashion store. Nowadays, Helltown has become a symbol of ecological resistance and the people's fear of the secrets hidden behind the label National Park. Is the establishment of the National Park merely a legal facade for the government to seize land and cover up a chemical disaster? If you accidentally wander into Helltown and see an abandoned bus, would you step inside to check it out or turn around immediately? Helltown was declared dead by the government through an administrative decree. And in Illinois, there is a proud capital that was not destroyed by humans, but rather by a gigantic river that suddenly changed its mind, severed it, and turned it into an absurd administrative island nation. Founded in 1735, Kaskaskia was once a bustling trade center on the frontier and had the honor of being chosen as the first capital of the state of Illinois in 1818. Here, they proudly keep a 650-pound bronze bell gifted by King Louis XV of France in 1741, a treasure known as the Liberty Bell of the West. However, in the spring of 1881, the consequences of excessive logging had eradicated the riverbank vegetation that prevented erosion. A historic flood struck, and the Mississippi River suddenly breached the narrow strip of land, unilaterally shifting its entire main flow to the east. The natural disaster left an incredibly absurd geological consequence. The entire town of Kaskaskia was completely cut off from the mainland of Illinois, pushed to the west bank, and situated right next to the state of Missouri. Instead of adjusting to nature, policymakers decided to maintain the historical border, creating a ridiculous paradox. The town is administratively part of Illinois, but geographically located on the Missouri side. The residents here pay taxes and vote for the state of Illinois, use Illinois phone area codes, but their postal addresses must go through Missouri. All ground supply activities obviously must originate from the state of Missouri. This incident caused the town's population to plummet drastically, from over 7,000 residents during its heyday to less than 200 people after the flood. By the year 2000, the population had hit rock bottom with only 9 people remaining after another historic flood in 1993.
As of the year 2020, the town recorded a mere 21 resilient residents clinging to this isolated island. Their lives unfold like an administrative joke of the system, possessing Illinois identification but having to drive on Missouri roads daily to go to the market, turning themselves into true borderland citizens. Lying solitary in the vast Chihuahuan Desert, Marfa is globally famous for the mysterious Marfa Lights phenomenon recorded since 1883. They are glowing orbs the size of basketballs, hovering, moving freely at incredible speeds, splitting apart or merging together in the night. The scientific community has proposed a popular hypothesis that this is merely an optical phenomenon of desert light refraction caused by temperature differences bending the headlights of cars from the highway. However, this theory was immediately refuted because the bright spots appeared in the 19th century, long before cars and electric lights were introduced in the area. Due to the surrounding isolated desert valley terrain, this town has no stable mobile phone signal. Amidst the desolation and disconnection, in the year 2005, 2 artists, Elm Green and Dragset, erected a model of a high-end fashion store named Prada Marfa right by the roadside. This store is always tightly locked, displaying original Prada shoes and bags from that period's collection inside. To combat theft, extremely peculiar security measures have been implemented. The entire soles of the displayed shoes have been cut off, and the handbags are equipped with tracking devices. The existence of a solitary and useless symbol of luxury consumption amidst the desolate desert creates an incredibly surreal visual experience. It is frequently attacked by vandals, defaced with graffiti, turning it into a bizarre monument reflecting the obsolescence of capitalism. The town of Marfa currently has about 1,800 residents, and the rent here is quite cheap, ranging around $700 USD a month. But the real price to pay is the ultimate existential loneliness. This is a ridiculous wilderness, where you can easily buy an artistic cactus water for $9, but absolutely cannot make an emergency phone call when in danger. 10 towns, 10 nightmares. But also 10 proofs of a harsh reality. When the money flows away, when nature gets angry, or when the management system turns its back, what remains is not just rubble, but urban legends frozen in time. These isolated lands or industrial ruins are not merely destinations for the dark tourism trend. They are a mirror reflecting the ecological instabilities, social pressures, and harsh biological limits that humanity must endure when confronting reality. America continues to move forward. New highways are still being built, but these forgotten coordinates will always serve as a crossmark, reminding us of the cost of development. If you appreciate real, unflinching, and weighty investigative reports like this, please hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next journeys. Please note, the content in this video is compiled from historical research documents, public health reports, and popular cultural phenomena. The information and hypotheses presented are based on an analytical perspective of phenomena, system structures, and geological fluctuations, and are not intended to attack or defame any specific individual or organization.